All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point live at South Carolina Pro Day, hanging out here from 9 until noon. Some of the testing getting underway just across from us here. We'll try and give you some of those numbers as the morning goes along. It's all right, Chris Clark. Kevin Miller of Gamecock Central jumping back in here with us once again. I have to say happy St. Patrick's Day to you too. We're not wearing green, so please don't pinch us. But I said there's enough green around here. I think we're covered, right?
Yeah, I think the turf counts for everyone, right?
Yeah, well, as long as we're standing or touching the turf, then we're covered there. But no, excited to be out here. Again, this is the third year that I've been able to be out here and do this. And obviously cool to see these guys go through the paces today. A lot of NFL scouts around, as there always is. We just spent the last segment there talking about Brandon Cisse, who, of course, is of the highest intrigue and interested to see where he goes. Maybe can work his way into being a late first-round pick, depending on how the 40 time goes today, but certainly somebody that won't have to wait too long to hear his name called in the draft coming up here soon.
Yeah, for sure. I think Cisse is a guy who, if he finds the right fit in the NFL, all it takes, is just having one team.
Sure.
If he finds the right fit, I think it could happen at the back end of the first round, and today will be important for him. There were some in the NFL scouting community that thought he would run a little bit of a lower time than I think a lot of us are expecting. So if he's able to get out here and maybe crack 4.4 like defensive coordinator Clayton White said yesterday during his media availability, then, maybe Cisse can sneak into the first round, because there are some teams that have expressed interest. There's been a lot of talk about the Seattle Seahawks, as a place where he could fit, because they like to move their guys around, and Cisse can play both outside as a boundary corner and can also kick inside at nickel. He can blitz. He can play man. He can play zone. So that could be an interesting team to watch, especially since they have pick number 32. So I'll be really intrigued to see what Brandon Cisse's final numbers look like today.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, sorry, Tyler. I think if he can, we were talking about it last segment, Kev. I'm with you. I had someone in the scouting community tell me, like, hey, right now, and this is one man's opinion, right? So there's different schools of thought, different opinions on guys. Some guys can be more polarizing than others. That right now, he's probably more of a second round, third round, maybe 70 to 110 type of range in terms of, overall pick number. But that's because, as you said, Kev, they've kind of got him, and hey, I think he'll probably run, 4.55 or something like that. If he can get up and shave some time off that and run a maybe a better than expected, might be fair to say, I think that can really help him a lot, because then he's going to have, the times, and he's already got the tape. That's the other thing we were talking about. When you look at his time at NC State, at South Carolina, he's put a lot of good stuff on tape, whether it's special teams, corner, nickel, super high IQ guy, above average, I think, from what I've seen, what I've heard in the tackling department, especially for someone who doesn't have, quote unquote, elite size. He just made a lot of plays on tape, whether it's in coverage or in run support. And he's got that versatility, to where, like you said, to your point about finding that right team, Wes really likes him as a nickel. Where do you think he fits in best, Kev, by the way, at the pro level?
I think, especially when you consider the size element to this, I think he could make a really good nickel.
Yeah.
I think I'm with Wes. But the beautiful thing is, I don't think he is locked into that. Some players, they're a nickel and they're only a nickel. Some guys can't play both inside and outside. I think him having the ability to do both helps him, but I think if you had to pick one, I think nickel is the spot.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, again, he's the guy that we project to go the highest out of this group of Gamecocks that are going to be drafted here coming up in a couple weeks. But some other guys like Jalen Kilgore, who, again, got to go out to be at the Combine a few weeks ago as well. Expect to hear his name being called somewhere around day number 2. And obviously, he has been here in this program for 3 years, played a very important role right out of the jump, kind of got thrust into action pretty quickly there as a freshman, has been a consistent mainstay on this defense. And obviously, we've seen a lot of good things out of him. Has been able to generate a lot of takeaways his time here at South Carolina. And obviously, that's earned him the opportunity to be thought of as highly. Looking at, Mel Kiper a while back, had him as his number 5 overall safety in the draft. This is a really good safety class head led by obviously, Caleb Downs there at Ohio State. So he's got a lot of guys that, he's going to be going up against competition wise in terms of being drafted in the NFL, put up, respectable numbers at the combine. Obviously going to have the opportunity to do a lot of stuff here today in front of the scouts once again as well.
Well, and speaking of nickels, right, depending on what team Kilgore goes to, he might be a nickel, right? He played a lot of nickel for South Carolina. I saw, probably it was during this season, I saw a piece from Mel Kiper, draft expert Mel Kiper.
Did you quote unquote that, or did you?
No.
Okay.
He is the guru. He's been doing it since before I was even alive. But he called Kilgore the best nickel in the draft. And he said he might play safety, which we all know he might play safety.
Yep.
He's typically listed positionally as a safety, but he had a lot of success at nickel at South Carolina, and we've seen the South Carolina versatile, athletic, long defensive back go to the NFL and have success playing nickel, because Nick Emanwori, though he is a safety, played a lot of nickel for Seattle this past year. And depending on who you ask, he might have been the most important defense, not necessarily the best yet, but the most important defensive player on arguably the best defense in the NFL. And Kilgore, though not quite as fast in a straight line, has a lot of the same similar physical tools. He's not quite as tall, but he's got really long arms to help make up for that. He's over 200 pounds. He ran a 4.4 at the 4.4 flat at the NFL Combine.
Yeah,
I mean, he could do something, I think, very similar to what Emanwori did last year, where he comes in as a safety, but he really gets moved around and gets a lot of reps at the nickel because he's had experience doing that at a high level in the SEC.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the scheme fit too. When Seattle was sitting there in the early second round of the draft and Nick Emanwori was on the board, can you imagine what they were thinking? They're like, seriously, we can get this guy right here, because not only is he a really, really talented player, but he's just such a perfect fit for what they do.
Sure.
And up front with, Mike McDonald, with Seattle, head coach there, but obviously a defensive guy. He has a cheat code, and he talked about this after the Super Bowl. When you're able to play the run and rush with 4 and win on both fronts, that just unlocks so much for you. But they also have really good players at all levels of those defenses. But, when you have a guy like Nick who can run the alleys, play the run, match up in man coverage against receivers and tight ends, when you can play him in different spots, when you can blitz him, that just, when you combine that with being able to play, rush 4 up front, play the run with 4, it makes all the difference in the world, and we saw that here at South Carolina. I remember the season after Nick left early for the NFL draft, Clayton White talked about how they'd have to play more. He praised it as regular defense, because you couldn't just say, all right, Nick's on the field, where can we move him around? Because he can handle any of it. He can go play center field for you in zone. He can go match up man to man with the guy. He can go play the run and clean things up. He was a tackle machine. So I think you're right, Kevin, that Jalen and Nick are not the same. But it's hard to compare anyone to Nick. He's kind of in that, that mold of a Jadeveon Clowney. Every time a big time defensive end would come along and South Carolina's recruit, is this guy like Clowney? No, he's not, because nobody is. It's going to be really hard, I think, ever to compare anybody to Nick Emanwori, because guys that size with that athleticism, that versatility don't come along very often. But Jalen does have a lot of versatility. And you talk about really good tape. He started since his freshman season. He's got really long arms. He's got really good size. The 4.4 time, I'm going to be completely honest, that was surprising to me that he ran that fast. And then you watch him on tape. He's got range. He can tackle. He can cover. He's matched up with some of the best in the SEC. When you look at going against Luther Burden, from Missouri during his time in the SEC, going up against Antonio Williams from Clemson, he's gone up against some guys who have played in the league or will play in the league, which is a benefit from playing in the SEC. So I think he's probably his combine performance probably helped him, and it'll be interesting to see, what form that continues to take after pro day here.
Well, and he's a guy that just obviously has a nose for the football as well. He interception his time here at South Carolina. You couple that with his ability to play the run, got those long arms, efficient tackler, like a lot of really good things to see. In addition to that speed that you said might have been a little bit surprising to some people that he ran at the combine the other day. I'm assuming he's going to run the 40 again today, so maybe a chance to even improve on that time if possible there. And
I wouldn't.
Or just lock into what you had at the combine.
I'll go ahead and stand. I'll go ahead and stand on my 4.4 flat and take that and take it to the bank.
But obviously, an opportunity to do a lot of other drills today to continue to impress scouts in a more comfortable setting, which is what people talk about when you get the opportunity to perform at your pro day, something you're a little more familiar with and more comfortable setting here. So yeah, a lot of good things going for Jalen Kilgore, and obviously we hope to hear his name called relatively quickly in the draft as well.
Yeah, and maybe completely destroying my whole nickel argument. I do want to point out that Kilgore has a really, really important modern NFL skill. And what that is the ability to cover ground over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Modern NFL defenses are running, not exclusively, but a lot of cover 2 with deep safeties. And if a guy with the length and the speed of Jalen Kilgore is that guy on the back end, it's going to be really hard for defenses to complete passes over the top. It's going to be really difficult for, even if a receiver gets by him, for a throw to be perfect enough to get beyond where he can reach. I mean, we saw it against Alabama, right? Was it Williams or Bernard? I can't. One of them was flying down the field. It looked like Ty Simpson was going to be able to hit him deep, and Kilgore makes just a ridiculous athletic play in recovery to knock away the pass. And that is something that he didn't do a lot of at South Carolina because of his role at nickel.
Right.
But he can do it physically. And so if he were to be a safety at the next level, I think he would fit in perfectly for what the majority of modern NFL defenses want to do.
We'll have more from Pro Day, the Extra Point, here on your Tuesday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. Extra Point. Tyler Head, Chris Clark, Kevin Miller hanging out with us here live at Pro Day at the indoor facility for South Carolina as testing has gotten underway. And again, we'll try and keep you updated on some numbers as the morning goes along. A lot of guys obviously working out for NFL scouts, trying to keep their football careers going. And we've talked about the two guys we expect to hear, sometime within the first day or so of the draft when it comes to Brandon Cisse and Jalen Kilgore. The third possible name we could hear drafted is Nick Barrett. And Kevin, you right around the time of the combine a couple weeks ago wrote about what Lance Zierlein of the NFL Network had to say about Nick Barrett in terms of his power, his ability to stop the run, and where the NFL might view him in some of those later rounds of the draft.
Yeah, Barrett's a guy. Well, first we have to give him his flowers for his improvement, right?
Sure.
I mean, he was a guy who was a reserve his entire career, and then as a fourth-year player was probably fifth, maybe at times even sixth on the defense tackle depth chart. And he turns that around in year 5 and earns all SEC honors. And that was not a fluke. Like he earned it. He deserved it. And it's because of, like Zierlein said in his evaluation, he's just a powerful, strong guy on the interior. And he can clog a gap like you would expect from a traditional nose tackle, like where it's like, okay, nothing's getting in this A gap. I'm going to take up 2 blockers. He can do that, but he's also developed his footwork to a point where he can make a play in the backfield if needed. The Alabama game this past year, honestly, he controlled the line of scrimmage both with his power and his ability to shed blockers. And when you have a guy who, 300 plus, who can stuff the run but can also get into the backfield, that is a guy that you can play both in a up front over a center in a shade, or you could kick him out to a one technique on the shoulder of the guard. You can move him around a little bit, and that versatility helps his chances of sticking with an NFL team.
Yeah, I think has he improved maybe more than anybody that we've seen? I mean, I'm sure there's some guys, but it just goes to show you can't give up on guys like early in their career in terms of what they could be, and maybe you say, well, that's an outlier. More often than not, if a guy hasn't done as much, if he hasn't earned a starting role in his first, 3 or 4 years, he's not going to. But there are certainly some examples to the contrary of that. And I think Nick's one. When they being the previous staff recruited him out of high school, he was kind of just a lower to mid 3-star get out of North Carolina. But you saw him and you go, this is a big kid. He's super strong in his lower body. And to your point, Kev, first year, yes, you're acclimating to playing close to the line of scrimmage. Closer you play the line of scrimmage, closer you play the ball. Generally speaking, the harder it is to make an early impact. And then, frankly, he had some really good players in front of him. Right. I mean, he had, you look at the season before last in 24, for instance, you're right. He's probably the 6th guy or so there. You had, Tonka, Boogie, TJ Sanders. You had DeAndre Jules, who was a really good player in there. And
Monkel Goodwine
was, just in his first years here as a transfer. And so Nick, in conjunction with the staff, made the very, I think, unselfish decision to, hey, we'll take a red shirt. We'll bring you back next year. We're going to need you next year in a bigger role. And so we knew that he and Monkel, who's also here, of course, were going to have to take that next step. And really they did. And so credit to those guys. Credit to Travian Robertson, the defensive staff. Jordan Dove, now at K-State, did a great job in Travian's absence as he was recovering from his accident. But Nick just, I think he got a lot better in a couple main categories, right? In taking that step from being a 15 to 20 snap guy throughout his career to now becoming a starter in the SEC and playing, 40 snaps a game. That Alabama game that you referenced, Kev, I think is probably what is Nick Barrett. You turn on that tape, that you see what you get with Nick Barrett. Powerful guy, can plug the run, as you said, but I think made a huge jump, the 2 categories, better pass rusher than you would think.
Yep.
Because of his ability to, it's not necessarily athleticism and twitch like it is with a TJ or a Tonka. It's more of his ability to shed blocks and use his power to plug those gaps and to get into the backfield, and also just leadership. I remember sitting down with Shane Beamer before last season, trying to identify some guys that were going to take that next step in leadership. And they did need more of that last year than they ended up getting. But Nick was a guy who ended up being a really good leader for them on defense. So, it's very interesting because coming into this season, he wasn't really on the NFL radar at all, because sometimes you get guys that are still on the NFL radar, even if they played a reserve role because they have elite measurables or something like that. Nick doesn't really have that, although he tested better at the combine than I thought he would. But he played himself into not only being on the radar, but being a probable NFL draft pick.
And for a guy like Nick, you guys talk about him obviously having been here for, even go back to the previous staff, recruiting him, taking that redshirt year 2 seasons ago. That's something we don't see as much in college football today. And yes, getting your opportunity at the next level relies a lot on obviously your tape, your measurables, and what you do with things like combines and pro days. But the character development of a guy like Nick Barrett, it's going to be very important too, for a guy that was loyal to this program, a guy that was willing to be unselfish and take a redshirt year instead of going and transferring somewhere else to help himself and the team in terms of development and all that kind of stuff. Scouts are obviously going to view that very highly.
I think it'll be fascinating. You kind of touched on something like how much, and I don't have the answer, like how much do scouts value that in this era? Do they look at a guy who's moved schools, 3 or 4 times versus a guy that's been at one place? To some degree, I don't know if it really matters. I mean, you look at a couple of the guys South Carolina had drafted last year. Demetrius Knight played at 3 different schools and is one of the best kids you'll ever meet,
right,
and went in the second round. Nicky Manwari played at the same school the entire time. So did TJ Sanders. Kyle Kennard played at 2 different schools. But I do think if things are close, having a guy with the leadership character traits of a Nick Barrett, that can help you out, I think.
That's probably especially true for guys who are probably going to be the back end of the draft, because you see an element, especially for a guy like Nick Barrett, who did not play as much earlier in his career. You see a level of perseverance. You see that stick-to-itiveness. You see this willingness to work hard. Things like that are really important for guys who are fighting for roster spots. And in the NFL, when your roster is extremely pared down, that could be a factor. That could be something that, like, all right, we like these 2 defensive tackles pretty much evenly, but, this guy played his whole career and was kind of just what he was, versus Nick Barrett. Well, he got better. He has a lot of positives on the character side. He worked hard. He improved his footwork, which is something that a lot of big guys never do. Like, that could be something that is, to kind of go to your point, could be a tiebreaker, so to speak, in the later rounds.
Yeah, certainly so. And again, we'll see where those guys end up in the draft coming up here in a couple of weeks as things have gotten rolling out here at Pro Day with some of the drills going on. And again, we'll keep you updated on that as the morning goes along. We'll come back, wrap up hour number 1. Guys want some South Carolina draft trivia? See how good you are with this?
Kev will absolutely destroy me in it, but I'm ready for it.
All right,
We'll see.
With that coming up next to wrap up hour number 1, Extra Point here on the game. Back in, Extra Point. We are live here at South Carolina Pro Day, hanging out at the indoor facility as testing's going on all morning long. We'll be out here until noon. Wes Mitchell did finally show up. No baby in tow, but he did have coffee. Didn't bring any for Chris, so you're going to have to figure that out yourself, I guess.
I know. I did text him. I was too late.
Nah.
He had already been. So, in fairness, he asked me a lot. I probably turned him down so many times that he's like, I'm not even checking anymore. I needed it today, though.
On a day you needed it, unfortunately.
Find somebody to
wasn't able to
get me access.
Come through. He'll hop on here with us a little bit, get his thoughts on these guys. Working out today. We'll obviously get into some of the coordinator sound as the morning goes along as well. But as a wrap-up hour number one, a little bit of draft trivia. So I went back through a handful of drafts in the past 20 or so years. I'm going to give you the player name. You have to tell me what round, what team, and what year that player was drafted. How do we think we're going to do on this?
Terrible.
Depends on the player.
How far back are we going?
The oldest I have is 20 years ago. So in the past 20 years. Nothing past that.
Okay. All right.
Anything you can do that?
Okay.
All right. We're going to start off. Kenny McKinley. Round, team, year.
How are we going to do this? First to buzz in?
Yeah, you can just raise your hand. You'll go first. If you get it wrong, goes to the other person.
I'm pretty sure I know the team.
Yeah.
I'm not
as
the year. Yeah. And I don't feel great about the round. You go for it, Kev. I feel like you're a little bit farther down the road on this one.
Well, it's the Denver Broncos.
Yep. All right.
And it is the 2009 NFL draft.
Yep.
I believe it's round 4.
I was going to say round 4.
Fifth.
Ah!
Fifth round pick to Denver in
2 out of 3.
2009.
2 out of 3
Dang.
ain't bad.
All right. Number
Okay.
2, Co Simpson.
I think I got that one unless you want.
No,
Chris.
you go for it.
All right, so Co Simpson is round 1. Round 2, the Buffalo Bills in the 2006 NFL draft.
It's actually round 4.
Oh, I don't know why I said 2.
Yeah, but you're right. To the Bills, 2006, but round 4 for
I
Co
swear
Simpson.
I thought he was a second rounder.
I would have also gotten 2 of those 3. I think I was going to go second round too.
Is that
We're
who
on the same
Preston
page.
said was the most athletic person he'd ever played with?
I don't remember Preston saying that, but he was
just a physical, like,
he was a freak. I mean, I've told the story 700 times, and I literally told it the other day. But one of the best plays I've ever seen anybody make in a Carolina uniform, or even in college in general, was the 2004 Georgia game here in Columbia. David Green threw a pass. It was like a deep out, and Co came from I don't know where,
20 yards away.
all the way across the field, picked it off, ran it back for a touchdown. I mean, it was
tight-roping the sideline.
tightrope. He was insane. He was good.
all
He was
right.
fun to watch.
Player number 3, Sidney Rice. It's probably easy.
Well, Sid had a couple teams though, and I always get mixed up. Like, which one was first?
So I've expressed some confidence I did on the last one, and then I was wrong. But I think I do think I know this one.
All right, you say
okay.
yours, and I'm going to say mine in case it's different.
2007 NFL draft, Minnesota Vikings round 2.
Okay. Oh man. See, I always get the time with Minnesota and Seattle mixed up. Remember, he played with Favre, and
That's right.
but that was first, Minnesota, and then he went to Seattle. That's where he finished his career. You said 07, yeah. Second round. He was a second rounder. Yeah, we'll go with Kev's answer. I mean,
Second round, Minnesota, 2007. Nailed it.
Yep. there you go.
All right. This might be a little bit trickier. How about Cliff Matthews?
Oh man,
What a run of defensive ends from
man,
that
I know.
era, though, man. Every year, it felt like there was one or multiple getting drafted.
having a hard time with Cliff's team. Got one in my mind, and I'm
I
not
think
sure.
I know the team, but I can't tell you the round, and trying to remember exactly which year.
So he was in the 2007 recruiting class,
Yeah,
and he played every year.
Yeah.
I don't think he redshirted, so he would have been 7,
it
8,
was the
9.
11 draft.
The 11 draft.
to a local-ish team.
I was the Falcons.
Yes.
Yep. Round 7.
Sure.
Correct. 7th round Atlanta in 2011.
Okay.
A little teamwork on that one.
There you go. 2 more here if we have time. Devin Taylor.
So Devin would have been the next recruiting class, but was a 5-year player, right?
Yep. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So he would have been the
13
draft to the Detroit Lions.
5th round, I believe.
I was going to say 4th.
4th round is correct.
Chris
4th round, Detroit, 2013. Last one here, Eric Norwood.
Norwood, Carolina Panthers,
Yep.
4th round.
2010 NFL draft.
4th round. That's what, yeah.
That is correct. 4th round, Carolina in 2010.
So wasn't Travian Robertson was also a Falcons draft pick
Yes.
in the
2012.
But what round was he?
He was a 7th
I
rounder.
think I've see that's what I was getting him and Cliff mixed up, but it ended up being the same one. Yep.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
We did pretty
You guys
well
are
on
pretty
that.
good with that.
Kev did pretty well on that.
A little bit of teamwork on that.
You beat me on the one that I was confident on.
Yeah, good trivia.
Yeah.
Thank you for not going any farther back than 20 years.
I tried to keep it within you. And I was thinking about you and Wes when I did this, but your coverage range of, the past 20 or so years.
Been some really good 7th round picks
Yes.
in Carolina history.
Captain Munnerlyn.
Captain Munnerlyn was one. Ryan Suckup was Mr. Irrelevant.
Yes, he was.
That worked out pretty well for him and everybody.
Justice,
everybody played for.
Justice Cunningham was another Mr. Irrelevant.
Yes, he was.
Well, an hour in the books, 2 more to go. We're live at Pro Day here at the indoor facility, going up until noon here on the game.
Are you a small business owner, a church, or other entity in need of a new HVAC system? Well, AAA Heating and Air has exciting news for you then. AAA now offers financing to qualified organizations to aid them in installing a new light commercial HVAC system. It's as easy as calling AAA Heating and Air for a quote or finding them online at callAAAtoday.com. Tell them Jack from 107.5 The Game sent you. At AAA Heating and Air, they've got your back. They're offering up to 12-month payment plans on repairs with no credit check required. That's right. No need to worry about your credit score in this case. As long as you're a homeowner with a valid bank account, you'll be good to go. So take control of your comfort today by giving a call to AAA Heating and Air at 803-677-1500. Again, the number to call AAA is 803-677-1500. Give them a call today and breathe easy again.
All right, welcome back in. Hour number 2, Extra Point. Or actually, no, we're in the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling,
Tyler.
Heating,
Yep.
and Plumbing.
That's
It's
right.
Tuesday. I'm not looking at my computer with all the things.
You don't have it
so,
memorized?
Yeah, I'm going on the fly a little bit here. But no, it is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. Here on your Tuesday, again, live here out at South Carolina Pro Day. Again, hopefully can land some coaches or somebody to talk to here in the next couple of hours. But watching the testing go on here, and we'll try and get you some numbers as the morning goes along, as well as, again, all these guys obviously trying their best to make their case for the next level. We kind of went through the guys that are going to expect to be drafted with Braden Cisse, Jalen Kilgore, and obviously Nick Barrett. All these other guys, I hope for opportunities to either work themselves into being late round picks or obviously be undrafted free agents. And as we talk about a lot, sometimes being an undrafted free agent can kind of be a better option than being drafted late, because it gives you an opportunity to have choices in terms of different teams that are looking at you and go into situations that benefit you the best, where you feel like you got the best opportunity to make a roster. And look at a guy like Rasul Faison that could potentially be a late round pick, but could also be one of those guys that ends up in that pool of running backs that gets picked up as an undrafted free agent when the draft is passed.
And in relatively recent South Carolina football history, we've seen a running back go undrafted and then parlay that into NFL success.
Mm-hmm.
Rico Dowdle was undrafted coming out of South Carolina and spent 5 years with the Cowboys and did not get his chance to, really play a ton until that 5th year. But he had shown enough through his time, both on the practice squad and the active roster, to get that 5th year on his contract. And then he rushed for 1,000 yards, and he got a free agent contract with the Panthers, rushed for 1,000 yards again. And now he just signed a 2-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there is a path, as you say, maybe Rasul Faison can do something similar, find the right team, because if he were to get drafted in the 7th round, he's got to go wherever he got drafted. But he and his agency and his people can talk with teams and find a team not only that wants him, but maybe that he would like to go to. And I know that's something that Rico Dowdle talked about in his experience, was that Dallas was a good fit for him at that time, and it worked out, right? Rushed for 1,000 yards twice now and just signed a multi-year NFL contract. Maybe you can see something like that happen too.
Another one that I think falls into that category that I did have someone in the scouting community say, watch out for him as a potential late round pick. And, once you get to that territory, it's best available. We need this position. It gets really, really hard to project if you're, hey, this guy's a 6th or 7th rounder or an undrafted free agent. Like it all kind of gets mixed up. But DQ Smith, we were talking about him during one of the breaks, Kev. I went and they didn't release the number, but he just did the bench press over there in the weight room here at the facility. I counted it up, so this is very unofficial. I'm bad at math. Looked like 22 reps, which Gamecock football social media accounts put it out and said it was more than any DB at the combine. And it looks like top reps for safeties, that number was 18. For corners, it was 17. So he's beat that. I mean, he's a guy that's built very well. He's a 4-year starter, former high school quarterback, played safety and started alongside Nicky Minori, came in the same class as a true freshman, and then throughout his career is a guy that Torian Gray, has really, really trusted throughout his career. He's kind of a fascinating one to me because aside, obviously, that bench number is great. So you're not worried about the upper body strength there, the strength in general. You're not really worried about the IQ. He doesn't have those elite measurables, for a safety prospect, but he has played a lot of football and has played, at times at a very high level. So I'm interested to see, how does the rest of his pro day go? Mm-hmm. How does that potentially translate? But he's going to get an opportunity. What does that mean, or what form does that take? Is it a tryout? Is it an undrafted free agent? Is it maybe sneaking in as a late round type guy?
Yeah. And I mean, even last year, South Carolina had a lot of guys that were on the NFL draft radar pretty heavily. And then they had another group of guys who were like, you know what, maybe they sneak in the back end or they get a deal. Well, one of those guys who did not get drafted but got an undrafted free agent deal was Gage Larvidan, who there weren't necessarily a ton of expectations revolving around him when it comes to the NFL, but he stuck the entire season with the Cleveland Browns.
Mhm.
So sometimes, again, we keep saying this, and it's because it's true. Sometimes you just have to find the right fit. And with DQ being, according to defense coordinator Clayton White, who said yesterday that he was getting a little emotional when people kept bringing up DQ not being back next year. According to Coach White, DQ is one of the smartest defensive backs he's ever coached. That goes a long way when you're talking about, especially a guy who would likely be a reserve player, at least early on. Like, that goes a long way with, like, hey, if you need a guy to get in there for a couple plays, you want to make sure they know what to do.
Yep.
And you don't have to worry about that with DQ Smith. He's going to know what to do. He's got the physical size. We've seen him have success as a tackler, where he just kind of racks up tackle numbers coming from the back end. If he can show that he has maybe a little bit more in the tank from a speed and agility standpoint than maybe some expect, then perhaps that puts him a little bit more on the NFL radar.
And I think, a guy like him who you don't look at him and say, okay, probably, 10-year starter in the NFL. Maybe you don't think that, but can he stick on a roster for the reasons that you just mentioned? And then special teams, he's a guy that obviously playing here for Shane Beamer and Pete Limbo and Joe DeCamillis. He's a guy that has, that special teams background to where that's a great way for a guy to stick on a roster that regardless of where you're drafted, if you can show that extra value, that's something that might be important for him going forward in the rest of this process.
I think about somebody as well, like a Brian Thomas Jr., who last year, played that opposite role from Dylan Stewart on the defensive edge spot there, and we saw him give really good production. And again, Dylan Stewart took a lot of attention away from him, but he was able to go out there and be productive. Obviously, he comes from, a good pedigree with his dad playing in the NFL for as long as he did. And again, he was not being necessarily looked at as somebody that may find his way into being drafted, but he's somebody, too, they'll look at that has a really good opportunity to stick with the team, whoever ends up picking him up as an undrafted free agent, if he doesn't hear his name called.
Yeah, and I wonder positionally with him. BT had his hand in the dirt most of the time at South Carolina, but he doesn't necessarily have the length measurables that you would expect for a defensive end at the NFL level. But I do wonder if maybe there's a 3-4 defense out there that's like, hey, we need an additional third down, just pin your ears back, line up in a wide 9, 2 feet, and go. I wonder if he could maybe latch on with a team like that where they have very clear expectations for what they need from him, and he's able to provide it as a guy that just gets after the quarterback on third downs.
Yeah, that reminded me. I was looking up BT's dad, obviously Brian Thomas Sr. He was a heck of a player. Played his whole career with the Jets after he played at UAB. I was looking up his combine numbers. So, first of all, big guy. He was over 6'4", 266. That's what he played at in the league. He put down a 4.47 in the 40 at that size, a 4.01 20-yard shuttle, and a 35-inch vertical jump. That's pretty freaky for a guy that size, and it translated. I mean, he was a heck of a player. So, BT, I still remember BT coming through camp here and getting offered by South Carolina. It was when Will Muschamp was here. Mike Peterson was the edge coach. And I talked to BT about it later, and he was like, man, when I camped that day, it was right here in the indoor where we are right now. He was like 195 pounds. He was a smaller guy. And that was, I think, kind of the concern, but he beefed up over time. I think he played last season at 245, 250, something like that. He's never going to be a super long guy. He kind of is what he is from that standpoint, but he got a lot better at playing the run. He's always had that pass rush juice. So he's another one that I think a lot of scouts are looking at either, maybe it's not even on the back end of the draft, but he's certainly on some teams' boards as, hey, this is a guy we need to maybe prioritize in the free agency realm after the draft.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say we saw at South Carolina that there's something special about Brian Thomas Jr.'s motor.
Oh yeah,
and that matters,
yep.
Right? I mean, how many of his 8 sacks? How many of his 8 sacks this year were because he just kept fighting? He just kept playing. When the first move and the second move were stonewalled by the offensive tackle, he didn't just quit. He just kept going and going. He would continue to give effort. Like that matters.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, it shows to an NFL team that, like, hey, if we take a chance on this guy as an undrafted free agent, like, we don't have to worry that he's going to just fizzle out, right? He's going to give it everything he's got. And so I think that could be a factor for him as well, especially at a high effort position like you would expect him to play as a pass rusher.
I can envision the play. I can't remember what team. Was it A&M with Marcel Reed? There was somebody that he pursued for the longest time and eventually got and sacked. I can't remember what game that was, but it was one of the best plays he made last year from what I remember.
There was definitely one against South Carolina State that was like that, but I think there was one later in the year. It could have been at Texas
Might
A&M.
have been. But
But he had he was the one that had the strip sack that ended up being a touchdown, right?
yeah.
On club. Was that him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. Where he just poked it out on Klubnik.
I mean,
The,
that
the
was
most unlucky ball bounce you'll ever see.
just the way it went.
I mean, he did his job on the play. It didn't.
He absolutely did
it
his job. Did it very well.
Didn't end up the way he needed it to. But yeah, no. Brian Thompson Jr. definitely played a great role in this defense last year, and I certainly hope to see him have success at the next level, as we are with all these guys. We'll get into some of the coordinator sound coming up next. Again, Clayton White and Kendall Briles did speak to the media yesterday. We'll get some of their insight on what they've seen so far through the first couple days of spring practice as the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing, rolls along here on your Tuesday on the Game. Welcome back in. Garnet Trust Tower, presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. We're live at South Carolina Pro Day here at the indoor facility. We'll get into some of the coordinator sound coming up here in just a second. Reminder tonight, Gamecock baseball taking on Charlotte. Game time moved up. First pitch coming up 4 o'clock. Should have that for you here on 107.5 The Game as the Maneris team tries to get over the tough weekend, really tough last week, going back to losing the Citadel and getting swept by Florida over the weekend. So again, kind of that coming up later today at 4 o'clock over at Founders Park. We do have a unofficial, 40 time for Brandon Cisse. It's being rumored about that he may have run into the 4.3s, which would obviously be phenomenal. Going back to what we were talking about earlier with cornerbacks at the Combine a few weeks ago, only 2 ran into the 4.3s, that being Toriano Pride of Missouri and Dalen Everett of Georgia. So if that is true, that's what Brandon Cisse ran, that'll put him in some pretty good company in terms of the other guys in his position group.
Well, and especially considering that was one of the potential question marks that some in the scouting community had. You know, we talked about it last hour. There were some who believed that he would run around a 4.5. Well, if he cracked into the 4.3s, that's obviously significantly faster. And we know that he had some strong explosive numbers with the broad jump and his vertical at the Combine, had over a 40-inch vertical. He's a little bit longer than his height would indicate. If you throw in a 4.38 or something like that in the 40-yard dash, then you could be cooking with gas then.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean that'd be, and again, very unofficial. We haven't been given any times, but I did get a text from somebody just a minute ago that the word was that during training for Pro Day,
right,
the Combine process, that he also was running in that 4.3 range.
Sure,
that would be huge if it ends up coming to fruition. That would really solidify his status.
Absolutely. I believe we're going to be joined by our guy Clayton White here. How's it going, Coach?
Coach, how you doing?
The headset on here. All right. Madison Live Radio. There you go. Get you mic'd up there. All right. Yep. All right. Let's get this untwisted here. Yeah, there you go. All right. Now we're good. There we go. All right. All right. Clayton White, defense coordinator for South Carolina, joining us here. 30 in a row. You're a frequent flyer when we have you out here at Pro Day.
Say that again now?
I said you're our most frequent flyer. I feel like every time we're out here at Pro Day, we always get you over here at the table.
It's definitely our third or fourth time for sure. There's been some good memories over here, man. It's a cool event.
Coach, appreciate you taking time to join us. First of all, what are your thoughts on what you've seen out here so far today? I saw the Gamecock football official Twitter account put up some reps that DQ had. I think 22 is what I counted, I think.
Yeah.
I know it's unofficial so far, but I think 22, which would have been the best number among all DBs, even at the Combine, and then got some guys out here doing 40s.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about what you've seen so far from some of your guys and what you thought.
It's always cool to get out here and watch our guys perform in a different setting. I think it's important for our guys to go through this kind of stuff. But DQ, if you don't know, if his dad's walking around here somewhere, his dad's just as big as he is. So I'm not surprised at the 22. When DQ came here on a visit, me and T. Gray was like, oh, my God, this dude here, strongest we've ever seen for us coming out of high school. Watching our guys run, the big guys. We love seeing the big guys run, like Monkel and Brian Thomas. And obviously Brandon did a really good job. Former player out here named Ronnie Porter's out here getting a shot. Got to give Coach Beamer some love for letting our former players come back, hometown guy. So it's fun, man. Awesome.
Hey, we're talking about DQ, Nick Barrett out here today as well.
Yep.
And, you were talking to the media yesterday, and as those names are getting brought up, you're talking about getting emotional. And those are a couple guys that have stuck it out and been here their entire careers, which in today's world of college football is so rare. Well, what does it mean to you for those guys to have been here the entire time and now getting to see them get their opportunity to shine for the next level?
It's big time. I think I just saw Tonka Hemingway's out here too. We were just having that same exact conversation. It's hard to really coach, through a whole class, through a whole cycle of guys, but definitely seeing Nick is awesome, seeing those older guys, but times have definitely changed in football, but it means a ton that those guys will stick it through. It says a lot about our culture.
Yeah, Coach, thanks again for joining us.
Absolutely.
We talked about Nick Barrett. I want to continue talking about Nick Barrett.
Let's keep doing it, man.
He's a really good story of just working hard, getting better, improvement, development, however you want to word it. What does it say both about Nick Barrett and about South Carolina football that you're able to see someone go from kind of a career reserve to becoming an all SEC talent?
No doubt, man. It says a lot about just who he is as a person. I think more important than as a player. He saw some things that he wanted to get better during the 2024 season, that he knew that 2025 will be his chance to not also be a good player, but also be a great leader. He has a natural leadership about him, and he kind of let some other guys walk out the door, and he was ready to, catch the door before it closed and keep that leadership going. He's outstanding. It means a ton. Just watching him continue to get better at his game, get a little bit more healthy. He has a couple knee scopes here and there, stuff like that, and he's cleaning stuff up. He's ready. He looked great. Gave himself a chance. Did a good job at the combine.
Let's talk a little bit about Brandon Cisse. If you pay attention to a lot of the draft boards and projections, he might be the guy, or probably going to be the guy that's drafted highest. One thing that we know about him, he loves football. Like, y'all have called him a football junkie. He's called himself a football junkie, super high IQ guy. But what is it that stands out about him, whether it's the speed, the versatility? Like, what did you see in your 1 year with Brandon, and where do you see him going forward in the league?
Yes, I do believe, he's on the high end part of football IQ when it comes to defensive backs and just any football player. He's the only one of the two corners I can talk about all 22 players and what they're doing, and like the concept and the play is pretty impressive. I'm pretty sure some teams have caught on to that. The main thing I like about him was just his ability to be a cat cover guy, his anticipation on routes, his ability to cut off routes, his ability to stay with guys down the field. He has great rundown ability. Those are all the things that NFL guys look for, but very competitive at the point of attack as well.
Again, South Carolina defense coordinator Clayton White joining us here on the Garner Trust Hour live here at South Carolina's Pro Day. And as we talk about a guy like Brandon Cisse, when you got him out of the transfer portal last year from NC State, what did you know about him from what his production was going to be, and how did that match what he ended up doing on the field for you guys this past year?
One thing we knew about Brandon, like I said, I'm a little connected to the NC State program. Their strength coach, me and him play linebacker side by side. Dan Thunder Burnett is his name. He's
great name.
Head strength coach. So once Brandon was in the portal, so I was able to reach out to him and get some intel on just how he was as a mover and all that kind of stuff. We needed that, but I do believe that his production and what he did for us, like the Alabama game, he did a really good job of covering those receivers out the slot and out of the on motions and stuff. He just did a really good job. Just proud of how he played. Wish he'd had a little bit more picks, but you can't always get them all. But he definitely lived up to what we thought he was going to be.
Yeah, Coach, another defensive back likely to be drafted pretty high, Jalen Kilgore. Versatile, right? He can do a lot of things. There's some of that with Cisse as well. We saw last year Nicky Minwari get drafted high, asked to do a lot of things at the NFL level. How do you see, for specifically Jalen, but potentially Brandon too, how do you see their ability to do a lot positionally and assignment-wise helping them at the NFL level?
Yes. I will say Kilgore is coming out of high school. He was one of the top tacklers that I've ever seen that can come here and tackle at this level without really any coaching. He was a natural tackler. So that was the first thing me and T-Gray realized. And he had really nice hips and really greasy hips, really can move, really slick with everything as far as his movement skills. I do think that he is a positionless player. I've had teams obviously play nickel for us. He's a first and second down nickel at that level. He can cover most receivers at that level in the slot, but some of those guys are a little different. He can probably play corner. I've had that question asked. Can he play corner for us? This is from one of the 32 teams in the league. I think he would have been a big-time safety if he just played one more year. But very positionless, smooth, excited about what's going to happen. If I'm a team, I would take Kilgore and say, figure it out later. But he can play three spots.
Sure.
That was one of the things I'd always – obviously Jalen thrived in his role in your defense, but I did always want to see what he looked like at safety. I'm going to admit.
I know, man. So there's a play he made against Ole Miss. He got an interception versus Ole Miss this year, but there was a play where he was covering number two. Number two went and blocked the safety, and he triggered from 10 yards and it looked just like a safety. It was beautiful. Unfortunately, we had DQ and Nick and Peyton. And we didn't really have a true nickel behind him last year. So we couldn't really, you know what I mean? But it was a guy that was ready to play last year. So it was tough. I hate the fact we never. So when he goes to the NFL, they're gonna say, well, one of those guys that's why they never play him at safety. But trust me, we wanted to. Let's put it on paper. We were going to put him at safety.
How do you guys manage to find some of these long rangey defensive backs? We call it the Torian Gray special.
Yeah.
You guys always seem to find these kind of guys.
It's crazy you say that because that was one of those things that we both kind of were on that same page. And I recruited Jermaine Pratt. He was a start middle linebacker for the Bengals before D Knight took his spot. And he was a 6'3" safety. We had a couple of 6'3" guys at NC State. T. Gray always has big guys, but we kind of stick to our criteria to kind of what we're looking for. Like we'll take a Judge Collier and develop a Judge Collier over someone else that, we know that, size, we can't coach that. Like we know what we can and can't coach, but we love the size. We just feel like it's just more of a presence, more turnovers, like more physical. And obviously high point football is just the main reason why you gravitate towards that.
It looks like you probably you mentioned Judge, it seems like every year you guys have kind of a crop that goes to the league, and then there's kind of the next crop that comes up, whether it's Cam and Darius Rush and like all these guys that have developed. So how do you feel about where Judge is and where Vakari Swain is? Because it seems like those are kind of the next two up for this season.
Next two up. They are. Joe Kilgore is also a guy that he'd be one of those late bloomers, kind of be on the scene kind of guy this year as well. But from a production and Gamecock Nation wise, it's definitely Vakari's next, and so is Judge Collier. They're both next. I like where they are, and they're not where they need to be, and they know that. I think between myself, Torian, and Coach Bly coming into the building, just give them a little bit of extra motivation to kind of prove us that they want to be the next ones, and that's how they've been taking it. Like they know right now that they're probably not ready, but they have it. I mean, they're both 6'1" plus. They're both tall. They're both can do some things in the NFL like that.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you taking your time for us once again. Always enjoy having you on here. We're out here at Pro Day, and know it's a busy day for you. A lot of guys that are getting the opportunity to work out for the next level, and man, we can't wait for the season to come up here in the fall.
This was too fun, man. It's over with already.
It is. We have breaks we have to hit, unfortunately, but
I got you.
Appreciate your time as always, Coach.
Take care. Be good, brother.
Clayton White there, defense coordinator for South Carolina. We'll continue on more from Pro Day here on your Tuesday on the Game.
Appreciate it, fellas.
Thank you. And welcome back in. Garnet Trust Tower presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing live at South Carolina Pro Day. You know, I said we were going to use the coordinator audio. We just got the coordinator instead. I feel like that's even better. Good stuff there from Clayton White, and certainly appreciate him joining us as, a lot of his guys out here today working out, getting that out, hoping for that opportunity at the next level. And again, as far as guys that we expect to be drafted go, it looks like it's going to be pretty heavy for South Carolina defense once again this year. Not as many as it was last year, which, again, phenomenal draft class a year ago. But, again, expecting the Ceesay's and Kilgores to hear their name called within those first couple rounds to really be good and just continue to add feathers into the cap of what Clayton White's been able to do on defense here at South Carolina so far.
Yeah, it's I mean, the DB conversation is always fascinating with what he's done, with what Torian Gray has done. And, you know, they've had, it's fascinating because they've had a mix of, you know, highly ranked guys and also guys that were kind of more sleepers coming out, you know, who have either made the league or will make the league. You know, we were just talking, you got that juxtaposition between Judge Collier, who was, you know, a 2 or 3 star recruit. And then you've got Bakari Swain, who was a 4-star guy, who was, you know, a top 100 type guy. That's kind of the next 2 guys up for South Carolina. And even if you look at the past, you had, you know, Cam Smith, 4-star, pretty big time guy. You had Darius Rush, who was a 3-star, who came here as a receiver, developed, took a little while longer in that development path, ended up playing his way into being an NFL guy as well. So, you know, Jalen Kilgore, pretty highly ranked guy. You know, Brandon Ceesay, remember him coming out of high school, didn't have an offer from South Carolina, was a 3-star type guy, kind of under the radar, just a really good high school player, but he's developed now into a guy who's going to be a quite high NFL draft pick. So I like how Clayton put it. They have kind of their criteria that they look for, and a big one is length. You know, that there aren't many. You're not going to be 5'10" and play DB for Torian Gray and Clayton White. So they go with a lot of, you know, measurables and develop guys. And I think you see that just year after year. And these are the latest examples.
Yeah. And you know, that evaluation process is one that obviously has a lot more layers than we could ever know. But that you mentioned length, and I have to bring it up. You know, anytime you talk to people about South Carolina's defensive backfield and you bring up Jalen Kilgore and you tell them that he's, you know, only 6'1", they get shocked, right? Because he's got ridiculous arms and he's very athletic. So that 6'1" plays like 6'4", you know, and you see a Nicky Minori who's 6'3", and you're like, really? Because he plays like 6'5". And it's this combination of length, athleticism, and the football IQ that they develop very, very clearly at South Carolina that just makes these guys tailor-made for the NFL. The NFL at this point has to love it when they see that there are guys entering the draft from South Carolina in the defensive backfield.
Well, I thought another fascinating comment that Clayton made was he had a team ask him if Jalen Kilgore could play corner for them, which is a very interesting thought. And, you know, now why did they ask that? Just to get a sense for, was that kind of a mind trick way of asking, like, how versatile is he? How good is he in man coverage? Or literally are they going to say, hey, we'll play this guy at corner? But, you know, I was also glad to hear Clayton say that they wanted to play him at safety. Like, I always wanted to see that so bad. Like Wes, when Nicky Minori was here, had kind of a mini crusade at one time to, like, I really want to see what Nicky Minori would look like playing as a linebacker. Me too.
Yeah.
Obviously, it worked out very well for him to stay at safety here and then to do what he's doing at the NFL level. But I don't think any of us will be surprised if we hear, hey, Jalen Kilgore's playing nickel in the NFL, or hey, Jalen Kilgore's playing safety. I really like the idea of him as a safety in the league, but he can do so many things for you, whether it's tackling, you know, like Clayton said, he came here from a tackling standpoint, was kind of tailor-made.
Sure.
You know, he was ready to go from that standpoint, but he's got the super, I mean, you're right about the height, Kev. Like, he's got the super long arms to where he looks even bigger than he is. And that serves him well in coverage because he can run. But if we were talking about that earlier in the show, if you slightly underthrow a ball, it's not getting completed, you know, against a guy like Kilgore. He's got recovery speed. He's got that stickiness to where he can stick with receivers. But even if he does kind of get beat, he can, A, recover, and B, use that length knock down the pass or even
Yeah.
pick off a pass.
We'll continue on from Pro Day here on your Tuesday on the game. All right,
Coach
sweet. All right, welcome back in. Garnet Trust Tower presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. Tyler Head, Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, Kevin Miller hanging out with you at South Carolina Pro Day, joined by the man himself, Coach Beamer, hanging out with us here for a couple of minutes. Coach, appreciate the time. How we doing today?
We are doing great. Hope you guys are. Appreciate you coming out and being a part of Pro Day.
Always exciting to be out here. A lot of things going on. We've got 40s going on. I think we're running some cone drills as of right now. I imagine this day is especially busy for you, talking to scouts, examining everybody, and trying to keep up with everything that's happening.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Obviously, we're getting rolling with spring practice with our own selves, but this is such a cool day. Happy for these guys to see them be able to take the next step at Pro Day of trying to accomplish their dream of playing in the NFL. It's a reunion in a lot of ways because there's so many guys that I haven't seen since the end of the season. There's some guys that have been back around Columbia training and I have seen. So it's great to catch up with guys, hear about what's been going on. They're excited about what's going on with our program and spring ball. They're asking those questions. And then it's great being able to visit with so many people from the NFL, general managers that are here today, a lot of defensive backs coaches that are here today to watch our DBs, and great being able to visit with them and talk about our student athletes.
Yeah, Coach, thanks for being on with us. And you mentioned the word reunion. I wasn't going to ask this question first, but when you said that, it makes me feel like I have to. You've got guys who obviously played for you this year who are here participating in Pro Day. You've got a player who played a season elsewhere that is back. You've got former players who are now in the NFL who are here today for Pro Day just to support their brothers as Gamecocks. And so my question is just, what does that speak to in terms of the culture around South Carolina football that you've got? Obviously your current players, but former players that just want to come back.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. That means a lot. It's one, it says a lot about the state of college athletics in 2026 with all these moving parts. There's no question about it. But I think, Steve Spurrier used to say it all the time, and I think he might have heard it from John Wooden that, you want to have a program where your players want to come back and be around. And that's what we have. The fact that, Boogie Huntley's here today and Tonka Hemingway is here today and Kai Kroger's here today. One, they enjoy being around this place, but two, to be able to support their former teammates and then guys that have come back from other programs that have graduated from Carolina and get an opportunity to be a part of Pro Day. That's what you want. We got good people here. The culture is very, very strong. Love being around these guys each and every day, and they love being a part of this place. And that's what makes, even going back to the season, Tonka Hemingway out in Las Vegas had an off weekend or bye weekend. He could have gone anywhere in the world. He came back here to see us play whoever it was that weekend. Or Spencer Rattler, his rookie year, came back here for a home game during his bye week. And that's what you want, for them to enjoy being at this place so much that they want to come back every chance they get.
Coach, we were talking to Clayton before you came on a minute ago, and he was talking about some of the questions that he was fielding from NFL personnel guys and coaches about their guys. And he mentioned that he had a team ask him if Jalen Kilgore could play corner for them, which was fascinating. But what types of questions do you get during the process from NFL teams? Like, what are the main things that they're honing in on? Is it more character stuff? Is it more on-field stuff? Is it a mix of both?
Yeah, it's more the off-the-field stuff. I think those guys, we're one of the few teams, Chris, in the country that we allow NFL personnel at every single practice every day of the year. Mm-hmm. The only time we don't say people can come in is Thanksgiving week. That's the Clemson game. It's not even so much Clemson as much as it's Thanksgiving, and the schedule's kind of weird that week because we're playing that weekend. But we're open. Most college programs, it's 1 or 2 days a week. They can come, but they can only watch the first hour of practice or whatever it might be. We're open. So these NFL teams, they've been here throughout the year watching our guys on the field, and they're doing all their legwork. But this is really the first opportunity for position coaches to get out. We've got a lot of NFL defensive backs coaches that are here today. General managers, they're very busy with their own team during the season. We've got some GMs here today. But the questions are more the off-the-field stuff. The big one is, how do they learn? Are they smart? Do they learn better in the classroom? Do they learn better on the field? Do they learn better in a group setting, one-on-one setting? What kind of person are they? How competitive are they? Shane, you know what we're about as an organization. Would he fit what we're about? Can he take card coaching? Those are the kind of questions that I get from people.
Coach Beamer joining us here in the Garner Trust Hour live out of Pro Day. Speaking of that, when you look at guys like Nick Barrett, obviously Jalen Kilgore, DQ Smith that have stuck it out here their entire college careers, how do the guys at the next level, when you have those conversations, view guys that didn't transfer, that did stay at one program and chose to develop under the same coaches year in and year out? Because that's becoming a rare thing in college football these days.
Yeah, it is. I think each situation is different, but that's what's cool is you want to have a place that whether they're here for 1 year or 5 years, it's a place they want to come back to. So you got a guy like Nick Barrett, who was committed to Will Muschamp and stayed committed, signed, played 5 years here in the program. And then you got guys here today like Russell Faison that was here for 1 season. But at the end of the day, they're all Gamecocks. And once they get here in January, it's my job as the head coach to put one team together. That's all about Gamecock football, no matter what their story was before they got here. And all of our guys have embraced those guys the right way and their teammates for life.
Coach, I was saying earlier, Nick Barrett maybe made the biggest leap of any player I can think of in a while.
Yeah.
And to your point, committed to a previous coach, stuck it out with you here, was more of a reserve, a role player, and then took a huge leap and made some huge plays and had a great season this past year. What did you see from him throughout the course of the year?
Yeah, I was just talking to a general manager about Nick, and I told them just that, like the step that he took from 24 to 25 on the field, but then really just from a leadership standpoint. People talk about, and I've talked about it, we had, I don't want to say a lack of leadership on last year's team, but we lost a lot of seniors off the 24 team to 25. There was no Demetrius Knight, Debo Williams, O'Donnell Fortune, TJ Sanders, Tonka Hemingway, Boogie Huntley, Kyle Kennard. Those guys rolled out of here after 24. So if you look at the leaders of the defense, Nick stepped up and was that guy on our, not just our defense, but our team last season, and did so many things behind the scenes for the team from a leadership standpoint. But then he was just a man on a mission, Chris. You go back to 24, we sat down before the season and made the decision to try and redshirt him so he could come back and have the 25 that he wanted. And I'm really happy for him that he had the 25 that he wanted from an individual basis and has put himself in position to now go play football at the next level.
Yeah, Coach, just looking at both last year's draft class and this year's potential draft class, there's a lot of defensive talent that South Carolina has produced. What does that do for your program as you look to continue that success moving forward in recruiting and developing on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, just that in recruiting, we can sell the development that you're going to get here. That you come in, you could be a guy like a Nicky Manwari who was not highly recruited, that came here, spent 3 years, developed, and had the year that he had as a rookie. You can be a defensive back like a Brandon Cisse, who came here, spent 1 year. Not that he was on NFL radars before he got here, but he spent 1 year and has a chance to be a first-round draft pick. So you give those young men credit because there's something about them on the inside that allowed them to do that. But then give Torian Gray, Clayton White, our weight room, nutrition, training room, just the overall development that you get in this program. It's something that we sell a lot and that you can point to, and not just with defensive backs. Demetrius Knight at linebacker and what he was able to do in 1 year in our program. So every young man that we recruit, they say they want to be developed. They say they want to go somewhere where they have a chance to play at the next level. And not that other schools don't, they all do, but we've got a pretty good track record of being able to bring guys in here, get the most out of them, and put them in position to go, maximize their potential.
Coach Beamer joining us here in the Garner Trust Hour again, live out at Pro Day, of course, in the midst of spring practice going on. We were joking in the break that kind of hard to get a flow. You had spring break last week, Pro Day today. After this, though, it'll be business as usual for the next handful of weeks. What, if anything, has really stood out to you from the couple of days of practice you guys have had to have so far?
Great question. 3 days, probably just how efficient our guys have been on the field, with it being so many new faces and it being only the first 3 practices of spring, meaning they're practicing the right way. You don't see a lot of bodies on the ground. As a coach, you're always out there yelling, stay up, because you don't want people falling on each other's legs and ankles. And we've practiced the right way. Before I came down here, was just putting together, everything for our team meeting tomorrow morning before practice. And I've got a lot of examples to show of our guys practicing the right way. And that's what I really like, because it's a lot of guys that maybe you did things one way at another school before you came here, and you don't know quite how we do things here at Carolina in practice, because there's some subtle differences. But it excites me because our guys have, hit the ground running. They look very efficient. It doesn't look like day 1, day 2, day 3. And then it's a very hungry group. And then the things that have stood out is just, in addition to that, we got a long ways to go, but physically we're a good looking team. We've got size, we've got athleticism, we've got speed. You watch our freshman defensive backs, you look at our receiving core, some good looking, physical bodies out there that I'm excited about continuing to work with.
Yeah. And Coach, there's a lot of transition too that you've had with your coaching staff this offseason. I know you get asked this question just about every time you speak to anybody in the media, but just how is that going through the beginning stages of spring practice?
Yeah, it's been great. A lot of people have just commented on the energy out there, whether it be recruits, high school coaches, visitors that have just been out at practice, and that's what they comment on. There's just a lot more energy out there, which there was a lot of energy to begin with. Wasn't like we were dead. So for them to say that there's a lot of energy, to me, is a great compliment, because we've always been energetic out there on the practice field. But those guys have done a great job. It's new ways of teaching, and just like the players, they've got to understand how we do things in practice. That, as the head coach, I believe in this or I don't believe in that, or we're not going to do it quite like that. I know you did it that way at TCU or Penn State or wherever that you came from, but here it's a little bit different in regards to how we're going to do things. And they've done a great job of getting acclimated to how we practice and what the expectations are. And they've made our players better. And I know our players really have really jumped into that. I was talking with, you talk about full circle and all that. Russell Faison was telling me when he was deciding on where he was going to go before he ended up at Utah State, he was getting recruited by Stan Drayton, the head coach at Temple. And then him and Stan just embraced and got a chance to catch up. And that's what Sewell said. He's like, man, what a great hire. And I've talked to all the running backs, and they are all talking about how he means business and he's no nonsense and he's exactly what they needed. So to hear our players saying that to a former player about one of our new coaches, there's a lot of examples of that. And I'm fired up about it.
Yeah, I was going to ask a follow-up on Coach Drayton. I mean, you've said publicly before, like, that is the guy that I wanted to bring into this program. And when you look at his resume, it's pretty obvious why. Like, he's recruited, he's developed. But what have you just seen from him now that you're working? I know you've worked with him before, but in a different role, right, as the head coach. What have you seen in terms of the impact maybe that he's already made through a few practices here?
Yeah, I think just knowledge. He's been a part of a lot of different systems, whether it be in the NFL, different systems at the college level with a lot of different coordinators. So there's just knowledge of the game, knowledge of the running back position. There's an intensity and a no-nonsense to him, which I love. And then just the fact that he's somebody that I've known for 20-plus years now, but he's also been a head coach. Things that he's able to, maybe say to me that are maybe blind spots that I've missed, or, have you thought about this? And I really like what you did here, and not, critiquing everything, but I don't want a bunch of yes men on the staff. I mean, I want people to call me out too if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or there's a better way of doing things. And we've talked a lot about that. Is all you guys are coming from different programs, the players and the coaches. And if there's something that you think can really help us, bring it to the table. And Stan and all of our coaches have done a great job of having those conversations with me.
Speaking of new hires, of course, Kendall Browse coming in as the OC. A lot of people within the fan base rightfully so excited about it. Within the offense, though, the guys that were here a year ago played in that offense, now getting a chance to learn Browse's new system as you get into spring practice. What's the excitement level of getting to play in this offense like going to be for this fall?
It's exciting. There's an energy, like I said a minute ago, out there on the practice field. Love what Kendall's brought. He's got his system, and it's new to a lot of people. There's reasons for everything. There's answers to everything. He knows what he wants it to look like. He knows what it's supposed to look like, and he's got a system to get that done, which is great. And our players have enjoyed it. It's are we a million miles an hour trying to run 200 plays a game? Not necessarily, but we're utilizing tempo, which we've done in the past, but that's been good for our defense to be able to practice against that a little bit more in practice, forcing them to get lined up, see who really knows their stuff and doesn't know their stuff. And then Kendall's just got a great, confidence and swagger or whatever you want to call it to himself, which, I saw that when I was working for Steve Spurrier, how teams can take on the personality of their coach and just that confidence and swagger that Coach Spurrier had as a head coach here. And it's very much, I think, similar with the defense and Clayton White. And hopefully will be the same with Kendall Briles and what he's doing from an offensive standpoint. Our offense taking on his personality from a confidence, swagger standpoint.
Got another one?
You took mine. So
Sorry. My bad.
so I was trying to lean back because you took my question.
All right, guys,
Yeah.
Coach. So when you talk about Kendall's offense, in that system, one thing that we know that is that he adapts, to the type of quarterback he has, right? So you got Lenore Sellers, who's an amazing talent, can do a lot of really good things. He's a different player than, Josh Hoover or maybe some of the other guys that he had in the past. So when you talk about that system, but also a system that has flexibility, like I think fans always want to know, well, like, what does that look like? Does it week to week, game to game depend? Like, is this going to be a run heavy, quote unquote, offense? Is it going to be a lot of throwing the ball around? Do you even know the answer to that yet? Because he's kind of got all those answers, like you said, built into that playbook.
Yeah. I think that's what spring practice is for, is we're trying to figure out like where are our strengths and where are our areas that maybe we're not as strong at right now. And that's going to be our offense. That's what attracted me in so many ways to Kendall when I hired him, was just the flexibility that he has. When I was researching offensive coordinators and I was looking into Kendall, I pulled up Arkansas tape from 2021 and 2022. And then you watch TCU tape from 2024 and 2025, and there's some similarities, but there's some differences. You've got Josh Hoover, you've got KJ Jefferson. They're two totally different quarterbacks, but he had an offense that both were effective, and that's what excited me about Kendall when I brought him in, and still excites me is he has his system, but his system is flexible enough to play to the strengths of what our strengths are on offense.
The last one here, we know you got a lot going on. We'll let you go. If you're running the 40 today, what kind of time are you putting down?
I'm going to go 4.85. I think I could still knock you out. Yeah.
I mean, if you got a 4 in front of it.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to start with a 5. I consider myself an athlete, and even though I'm about to be 49 years old, I'm not going to say that I'm going to run a 5-something 40. So I'm going to be optimistic, say in the high 4.8s, 4.9s.
Okay.
I don't know. It wouldn't be a good day today. We played dodgeball last night as a team, so I've got like full body soreness right now from playing dodgeball last night. So today I would probably run in the 5s. You get me on a better day where I'm warmed up, I'd get something in the 4s.
Has Hunter laid down a time yet?
He hasn't, but I know he would. He's I was telling you guys earlier, this is like a national holiday for him to be able to come out for pro day. Came home last night. He had his NCAA tournament brackets already filled out. I said, "When did you do this?" He said, "I was researching teams all day today, like during school," and there was silence on that one. So this is a big week for him, but he would beat me in a race. I know that.
Yeah. Well, Coach, we appreciate it. I know you got a lot going on today. Thanks for making some time for us.
You got it. Thank you guys for being out here.
Coach Beamer here on the Garnet Trust Tower, presented by Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing on your Tuesday here on the game.
All right, guys, let's tell you about our friends over at Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing. And if you heard that last part, you did hear it right. Our friends over at Krantz Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing have added plumbing to their suite of services for Midlands homes and businesses. KrantzCooling.com is where you can check those guys out. KRANTZ, cooling with a K.com. Great service since 1983, local and residential, family-owned HVAC company. They've been to my home. They've been to us as home. They've helped us with a variety of HVAC projects. They can help you out with yours, whether you're a homeowner or a business owner here in the Midlands. But they have now added plumbing to their services. Check them out, KrantzCooling.com. That's where you need to go to check them out. You can get an estimate. You can check out the financing. You can get someone out to your home for all of your HVAC, cooling, heating, and plumbing needs. KrantzCooling.com. Check them out today.
back on time. All right, welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyrod, West Mitchell, Chris Clark, Kevin Miller hanging out here at South Carolina Pro Day. To our network partners, we did run a little bit long there in that last segment because we were joined by Coach Beamer, but we'll get everything back on track here coming up in a couple minutes. So thanks for bearing with us on that. But again, a lot of good stuff from Coach Beamer there. And when you're out here at Pro Day, Fink just kind of walks up and he drops coaches off. So we're kind of working on the fly here, but I saw Beamer walking up. So obviously got some good stuff out of him. And yeah, it's an exciting day. And he's excited for these guys out here, and obviously likes what he's seen so far in spring practice as well.
What's up, guys?
Hi, Wes. Thanks for joining us. I asked you if you're going to do any radio work today. You said not till 11. So
Well, this is when the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour is. So,
it is, yes.
Firehouse
And,
Subs.
no, Jack Tavius is not here with us today, so Kevin Miller's been picking up his slack.
yeah, Kevin's a little more positive than Jack about things, I feel like. So maybe the people out there will like that. Maybe they won't. I don't know.
Jack is very opinionated.
No, not Jack.
It's that New York in him.
Yeah, he's got, I still don't understand that. I thought Jack was from Fort Mill, but I guess the South hasn't rubbed off on him yet. But anyway, yeah, I'm good, guys. This has been fun. Like I feel like some guys have thrown down some pretty good times. We haven't gotten official times yet, which is always kind of funny. You got 30 stopwatches on a guy, so it's like I've been kind of asking around. Hey, what'd this guy run? Well, here's like 5 different times. So then there's a guy for the Bucks who is the official, not timekeeper. He's the official record keeper. And so at some point there's an agreement on what the official time is, and he is the one who submits that. But it's a little bit more unofficial than you really would want millions of dollars riding on, I feel like.
Are we taking like an average of the 30 times? All right, it averaged out to about a 4.35, so we'll go with that.
I do think there's a little bit of that. So, man, I've heard C say everything from edging into the high 4.3s to high 4.4s. So, I think he had a good, like, we'll see what the official time is when they put it out. I think his first run, from what I heard, was very, very good. Faison, I heard into the mid 4.4s, 4.50 even or so, which I think for his size actually would be a very good time for him. And then, as we saw, but what I was also told, Kilgore pretty much checked all his boxes at the combine, so not doing the testing, but he is going to do the on-field portion here momentarily.
Yeah, Kilgore, we were talking about that earlier, Wes. It's like you go through his numbers at the combine. Probably don't need to rock that boat. Like you just stand on those because he put up some really good stuff at the combine. Cissay's the one that I think has had, for him and for teams, maybe the most riding on this day because he didn't run at the combine. And I think he has room to maybe move up or to solidify his status with some teams. And so if he does end up in that, certainly high 4.3s, but if he ends up in that 4.4 range, I think that could really, really help his draft stock.
Yeah, and just watching from a distance, watching some of the on-field testing for the defensive linemen, it's going to be really interesting to see if a team will take a chance, whether in the back end of the draft or just with a free agent contract on a guy who has some really impressive movement ability despite being a little smaller. In Brian Thomas, we talked about him last hour, but he had a really clean bag drill that I saw across the field just a minute ago. But looking forward to seeing the defensive back drills, especially see what they have Kilgore and Cissay do.
We're out here at Pro Day for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. We'll come back, get into more of what's been going on here this morning so far, going up until noon here on the game.
All right, everybody, let's tell you about our friends over at Integrated Media. Michael, Nathan, and their team can make anything that you need at your home or business from a tech or an audiovisual standpoint. They can make it happen. Been telling you about their conference room solutions for businesses around the Midlands. If you need better tech, they can make it super easy to set up for your meetings, whether virtual, in person, combo of both. They can do it for you. IntegratedMediaInc.com or 803-948-8327. Also, of course, they can do anything that you need at your home, whether it's something as simple as mounting a TV to making your home a smart home where you can control your lights, devices, thermostats, everything from the touch of a button on your phone or on your tablet. IntegratedMediaInc.com, Integrated Media Columbia on Instagram or Facebook, or give Michael, Nathan, their team a call. They can be your one-stop shop. Integrated Media, 803-948-8327.
All right, welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs, hanging out here at Pro Day for about another 40 minutes. Everybody out here taking a look at what's happening with the drills. I got a few official times that have come in. We talked a little bit earlier about Brandon Cisse running somewhere around a 4.4, officially, unofficially, based on whatever averages or whoever's stopwatch they determine is the most accurate. Also, Wes, you had earlier that Rasul Faison ran in the 4.4 to 4.5 range when he ran the 40 earlier as well.
Yeah, that's apparently that's kind of like what he was told coming off the field. I heard through the grapevine. So yeah, I'm always careful about, like, I always just give a round number because I don't want to be like, oh, he ran a 4.44 and then the official number is different, because again, there's a bunch of different stopwatches out here. But I think people will be happy with Rasul's time for a guy that is his size. And I was talking to somebody who knows him well earlier, and obviously the season did not really go the way it was designed when he came in, but everybody on his side, I think, is just feels like everything they said would happen happened in terms of South Carolina doing what everything in their power to get him eligible to play this final year. He did get invited to the combine and got to go and got to be around teams. And, he's a little bit older, obviously, than your average guy coming out. He may be someone we're not talking about enough, though, in terms of if he's able to find the right fit. I always thought watching him play, he was a guy, he's not a Marcus Lattimore. He's not going to just create 4 yards when it's not there. But if you can give him a seam, and we saw that a little bit this year, if you can give him a seam, he can make something happen in the open field. And so if he can find the right spot, I could see somebody taking a chance on him late.
Yeah, because, there's different kinds of patient runners, right? You've got you mentioned Marcus Lattimore. You've got that style of patient runner who can just kind of knife his way where he needs to get. But then you've got the kind that, like Rasul Faison, where he waits for a play to develop and then he darts through a particular hole, or he makes a good, he's really good on one cut and go type of plays. And I mean, he averaged 4.9 yards per carry this season, which is a solid number. I know he didn't have 100 carries, so the overall number didn't look like what some people would have expected, but 4.9 it's a strong number. That's basically what Rocket Sanders averaged in 2024. It's a really respectable number. And if he can showcase an ability to do some other things too, that could really help him in his NFL journey. He showed the ability at the Senior Bowl practice to catch the ball out of the backfield. That could be a big thing for Sewell. He, at South Carolina, he had some runs where he kind of just displayed the keep your legs moving type of mentality, where he just busted through late because he won the battle of I'm going to keep my legs moving more than you as the tackler. So if he can just showcase a few more things, he can potentially catch on with an NFL team, because like we have mentioned multiple times, talking about all these guys and their hopes and dreams of being in the NFL, it just takes one team to like you. It takes one team to really think that you're a good fit for them. So that's all Rasul Faison needs.
Well, and going back to something we talked a little bit earlier, Wes, that guys that aren't going to hear their names called in the draft to get the opportunity to be undrafted free agents. Sometimes that's a best case scenario, because it gives you an opportunity to have a choice between a couple different teams, go to a situation that ends up fitting you the best. And especially for running backs, where there's a lot of them, there's going to be a lot that are available as undrafted free agents. If Faison doesn't hear his name called, being a guy that is older, being a guy that has a few more miles on him compared to some of the other young guys coming out, having the opportunity to pick and choose what team you might be able to go to might end up benefiting him the best. Because again, he was looking at going to the draft a year ago before he got his eligibility, and even up until before Carolina learned he was going to be able to play, there was talks of, hey, maybe he just darts and goes to a camp instead and tries to start his NFL career if he's not going to be able to play a final year in college. Of course, he did get his eligibility, and we know what happened with the season, obviously, but he's got opportunities, he's got skills and abilities. Talking about what Kevin had to say there about the ability for the one cut. We saw that long run against Virginia Tech in the first game that really kind of stood out early for people there. That again shows the skills and ability he has, and hopefully he gets the opportunity to show that at the next level as well.
Yeah, I think going out here and running around and catching the football and looking natural doing it, as it looks like we're going to see here shortly, I think that's a big step for him as well, especially, a guy that does have that open field ability, the ability to kind of, make you miss, I guess, in the open field as well, and kind of not take direct contact. All those things are become important if you show, hey, I can go catch the football out here in space. And so for him, I think just going through these, looking smooth, looking like you're catching the football out in front with your hands, kind of all in one motion, will be a big deal for him. So I think for a lot of these guys, man, there's probably, like Cisse, we talk about the 40-yard dash because that was the one thing maybe teams have an asterisk by. This is the one box you need to check. For several of these guys, there may be multiple boxes where teams are saying, hey, we like this, this, and this, but what about that and that? So, for him, I think just going out here and, just looking comfortable will be big. And that's why, dude, pro days are so weird to me. Like, it's not football. It's an individual thing. Football is a team game. It's an individual thing out here, though. And so, but there is a semblance of, to me, there's actually probably in some ways more pressure on you with all eyes on you to go out here and do something maybe than there even is in a college football game with 80,000 people and the ESPN cameras on you, because every eye is on you while you're doing that drill. So I do think there is a sense to me of, all right, can you handle that type of spotlight and do what you need to do and look natural doing it?
Yeah, and that's a good point, because on the field, there are 10 other guys that might be able to pick up your slack if you have a mistake. When you're running through drills, there's not. And it's not just the fans of your team watching, it's also your potential future employers who are evaluating your performance to see, all right, is this a person that we want to invest potentially millions of dollars in? So yeah, I mean, pressure is high. I will say, though, that there's been seemingly from a distance a lot of confidence displayed by the guys. A lot of guys have seemed to like the times that they're posting in the 40. They've liked the way they've handled their drills. So I think we'll look back at this at the end and think that some guys might have made themselves some money today.
Again, we're live out here at Pro Day for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs, going up until the top of the hour. Want to get into a Make Your Case coming up next while we're hanging out here for Pro Day on your Tuesday here on The Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Time at Wes Mitchell, Kevin Miller hanging out with you here for South Carolina's Pro Day going up into the top of the hour. Got obviously these guys working out here. Got former players. See Boogie Huntley over there talking to some folks that are coming back, as Beamer talked about earlier. A lot of former players coming back to hang out for Pro Day, which is always really cool to see. And we've got some numbers that have trickled out throughout the morning. We'll hit some of those a little bit more as we wrap up the show coming up here in a bit. But since we're talking about guys making their cases for the next level, I feel like it's a perfect opportunity to dust off make your case. Kale, hit it. There we go. All right, since it is Pro Day, obviously you got a couple guys that we know are going to hear their names called in the draft coming up here in a couple of weeks, but a lot of guys also trying to make their way on NFL rosters even if they don't hear their names called. So today's Make Your Case. Who stands to benefit the most from Pro Day today?
I think it's Brandon Cisse. I mean, I kind of spoiled, I guess, my answer earlier, but I think it's Cisse because, you know, you could pick a couple other guys and make a good case for it, and we'll see if you guys will. But I think the fact that Cisse only had his jump numbers, you know, from the combine, he had his broad, he had his vertical. Both are very good. I think both were top 5 among his position group or among DBs. But he needed to come here, I think, and solidify and or improve his status by running a really good 40 time. And like we said earlier, we don't have those official times, but just from what's kind of going around here at the indoor facility, it sounds like those are probably going to be pretty good times. They're certainly not going to be bad times from what we understand. So I think he's someone that may be on real behind the scenes draft boards, not just what you see in mock drafts. Sometimes those things match, sometimes they don't. I don't know that he's necessarily a first round type guy on a lot of teams' boards, like a consensus first round pick. I think he's maybe, you know, just from what I've heard, second, third, maybe even fourth if he slips a little bit. But running a really good 40 time, I think, could really solidify him in that, you know, second round range, maybe even, you know, get into the first round range, in addition to all the other really nice attributes that he has, you know, the versatility, the production on the field, the football IQ. He's got all those things. I think teams have had some questions about what does the top end speed actually look like. And if he answers that today, which the indications are that he might have, I think that would help him out a lot.
As we talked about earlier, all it takes is one team, right? Again, you can be projected to be early second round guy, but if one team really likes you and they find you in the back half of the first round, that's all that it takes. So again, the numbers that we talked about earlier with him running the 40 end up, you know, being the case, and that certainly helps him out a lot in terms of what he's already done at the combine a couple weeks ago, and obviously what he's put on tape, you know, here at Carolina, and obviously his prior stop at NC State as well. So yeah, obviously being the highest draftable guy that we think is going to go off the board for Carolina, certainly an easy case to be made that he stands to benefit the most today.
Well, guys, I think as we saw with Nick Emmanwori last year, like there are some advantages to not sneaking into the first round. Like, you know, you may find yourself on a better situation, on a better team. You know, there are even some I guess advantages I didn't realize existed until you really dive into it, as we're watching Russell Faison catch a wheel route right now. In terms of when your second contract kicks in, if you're a second rounder, even if it's the very top of the second round versus a first rounder, the teams get that one extra year of control. It's a longer contract. So if you're Nick Emmanwori, you're actually going to get into your second contract, which you've already probably earned an ungodly number. You're going to get into that a full year of earning earlier than you would have if you would have been a first round pick. So there are, it's going to be a smaller contract now, but there are some advantages to going ahead and being able to possibly get that second contract if you play well right off the jump, which obviously Nick has. And I think Cisse is a developed player. Like, this is not someone who they're going to say, well, you know, you always hear that, he's raw, he has upside. That's not going to be the case with Cisse. Like, this is someone who's going to already have a great feel for playing nickel, playing corner. Probably you could throw him out there and play some free safety in certain schemes too if you really needed him to. So I think there's a ton to like about him. I mean, he's probably the answer to your question. Like, I think he's probably the obvious answer.
But if you had to pick someone,
I'll go against the grain a little bit, man. I'll tell you, a guy that I think will continue to help himself, because you look at the end of this little sheet we have right here, meeting rooms available for interviews upon request. That's talking about NFL teams wanting to meet with these players. Even though Jalen Kilgore is not doing testing, I think going out there, continuing to springboard off of what he did at the combine, and then confirming for teams, because, this is someone, if they call Clayton White, if they call Torian Gray, if they call Shane Beamer, they're going to be like, look, Jen Kilgore was a class citizen in our program from day one, right? Great family. He was raised the right way and all these different things. They're going to want to confirm that, right? And they're going to want to confirm the football IQ, all the little things that don't necessarily show up in numbers. And, of course, he's going to run out here and catch some balls and go through some footwork type stuff too. So, it's not like your traditional pro day where, oh, wow, boom, he ran a 4.3 because he's already done all that stuff. But I do think an important day for Jalen just to continue that momentum. And do teams want him at safety or nickel? That was something I was talking, about with someone in Jalen's camp earlier. Some teams are saying nickel. Some teams are saying, we see you more as a safety in our scheme.
Yeah, and Clayton White mentioned, Wes, earlier that he had an NFL team ask him, could Jalen play corner for them in their scheme? So, he's a versatile guy that can do a lot of things for you.
Chris, there was talk before this past season. One of my NFL draft guys said, teams are talking about Jalen as a true cornerback. Now, I think that has to involve a particular scheme. Like, that's not something he's really done any of in college, at least not in games. So, I think there will be certain schemes where maybe that's more of a fit, but certainly that's something where if you have that versatility, that's just a little extra edge. That may not be why a team drafts you, but if it's between you and someone, it's like we talk about with special teams. If you have the identical player, well, this guy also has contributed on special teams, this other guy has not, I'm taking the guy who can possibly help me on special teams. So in case of Jalen, maybe a guy can only play nickel or only play safety. That can be the tiebreaker that you can play other positions in a pinch.
What about you?
Yeah, and tiebreaker is something that I think, to kind of go back to the make your case thing, I think the tiebreaker stuff is really big on pro day. You get to see guys who might not necessarily be as highly thought of in NFL draft circles as Cisse and Kilgore, but you get to see some of these other guys work out. And if you're an NFL decision maker, you get to see, okay, this guy could do this thing, or, I like the way he moves. Maybe he can help us on our kickoff team. Or I like the strength this guy showed on the bench press. Maybe Nick Barrett, somebody like that, Monkel Goodwin, can help in our goal line packages. You look at guys like that, you don't necessarily look at the entire body of work when you're talking about further down the line, especially free agent guys. We look at what can they provide. It's like the old thing that Bill Belichick used to say. He's like, I will find out along the way what a player can't do. At the beginning, I need to find out what they can do, because I'm going to use them to do what they can do, and we'll figure it out from there. And I think a workout environment like Pro Day gives you a glimpse at some of that. We were talking about Rasul Faison catching the ball out of the backfield earlier. That's a big deal for running backs. And if he has a good day, and I saw him make a nice catch earlier, if he has a good day doing that, that could cause an NFL team to look and be like, you know what? We didn't necessarily have him on our radar, but now that we know that he's a good pass catcher too, that puts him on our board.
And I think that's a really good point that you bring up there, because especially for these guys that, are looking at maybe finding their roles with teams as undrafted free agents, being able to do a couple of things specifically very well to be a part of packages, be a part of specific things a team may do, I think is really important. And I'll go to a guy like Jared Brown, who's out here working out today, who, was plagued by injuries and stuff here at South Carolina. But I remember when he came over from Coastal, we obviously talked about his versatility, things they used with him within that offense, being able to, he could take handoffs, obviously, could catch the football and had, yards after catch and all that kind of stuff. And, with how extensive offenses have become in the NFL, having a twitchy, smaller guy at receiver, you can use those guys in a variety of ways. And again, I don't know if he's going to go out there and, be a 500-yard receiver in the NFL, but I think having that athleticism, assuming he can stay healthy, can allow him stick at the next level. And I just saw him go out there and catch a pass a moment ago, from one of the guys throwing. That's something that hopefully he can put on display today for those scouts.
And a few minutes ago, he made a nice toe tapping grab on the sideline too.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of those guys that like he's not going to be on a draft board necessarily as one of those guys you're tracking as, hey, this might be a late round get. Doesn't seem like that's probably going to happen, but there's a lot of guys that fall into that category of like they're going to get an opportunity to try out with the team or be an undrafted free agent. What can they make of that? And Jared's got some explosiveness. There's no doubt. I mean, still remember, y'all probably remember the little quick pass he caught against Missouri, and then he's gone, and unfortunately had some injuries, things like that happen. Wasn't as consistent throughout his time at South Carolina in his career, but he does have an interesting skill set. So, is he one of those guys that pops up later that maybe surprises with being able to stick at the professional level?
Yeah.
So the trajectory almost seems like it could be a Gage Larvidan.
That's what I was going to bring up. You mentioned that a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Same type of guy.
I could definitely see that happening where it's like, we like him as a receiver, but man, what he could do on special teams for us might get him onto an NFL roster. So
yeah,
we'll
and
see.
again, when you play at South Carolina, they know that special teams pedigree here, and obviously that's something that help you out in your career at the next level as well. We'll come back, wrap things up as talk about everything that we've seen and heard out here at Pro Day so far, as it is Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the Game. Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Wrap things up here from South Carolina's Pro Day. Still got some of the drills going on with guys catching some passes. I believe we've nailed down that Davis Bevel is out there throwing. Not many quarterbacks are that big. So, yeah, he's out there throwing some passes to some guys to wrap things up here. Again, only got a few numbers as far as 40 times go. Again, Brandon Cisse somewhere in that 4.4-ish range. Rasul Faison around a 4.4, 4.45 himself based on the unofficial numbers so far. So, again, hopefully that's beneficial to both those guys. And obviously now we kind of wait until after this day. You know, the draft's in a little over a month to find out where some of these guys get their names called, and obviously which ones will get the opportunity on NFL rosters as free agents as well.
Yeah, and guys, I mean, the sad part about it is like your actual percentages of being a successful NFL player are frank, they're low.
Right.
They are. Like if you look at one of those charts that's like, hey, first round picks, how many of them get a second contract? And if you go from second round, third round, fourth round, I mean, it dives off a cliff. So right now we are firmly in the hype stage, hearing different things about guys moving up and down boards. And, the sad part about it is most of these guys will not go have long NFL careers, but they're just looking for a chance, looking for that opportunity, and then looking to take advantage of it. So, yeah, I think today is going well. You have to have the context of, for some guys that may not mean anything, but I do think there have been some good things for guys, and you're just looking to get picked up, frankly, by the right team. How much of it is just about? There's a lot of bad NFL franchises, right? So you're not only looking to get drafted, you are looking to get drafted by the right people.
Yes, ideally. And I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but we have brought this up, and I've heard some other people say it. Next year here, there's going to be some activity,
Yes.
I think.
Sellers, Harbor,
Stewart,
yeah.
Swain.
Swain, Judge Collier. You look at the linebackers like J.R. Johnson will be draft eligible. Throw in some transfers.
Zacharias Peak, if he's able to bounce back from his injury.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be, I think, more volume in terms of draftable guys, but there's also going to be a little bit more top heaviness, I think.
Well, what is the most chaotic pro day you guys have been here for?
Clowney.
I was going to say it was probably Clowney, right?
Yeah, that was a zoo.
That was at the stadium, too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was. How many people attended that one, you think?
All.
Yeah,
it was all of them.
Ridiculous.
Which is funny because everybody knew he was going to be the first pick. So why did everyone need to come?
I don't know, man. I think the Patriots got a shot at him. Like, no, he's going to go number one overall.
I think people just wanted to see and say they were there and all that kind of stuff. But no, it's been a good day. I mean, the guys still doing some drills out here. I think, early returns have seemed pretty good. I think, just to recap, I mean, Cisse's times seem like they're going to be in line to help him, or certainly not to hurt him. And it still seems like there's a consensus that he's probably the first guy off the board. But I'm kind of with you, Wes, on your make your case. Like, could Jalen Kilgore rise a little bit more than where people have him slotted? I would not be surprised by that.
Just because I think he's going to, in a good way, blow up the interviews. Like,
Yes.
I think they're going to be like, all right, that guy looked me in the eye, shook my hand, and carried himself the proper way. So, we'll see. Did we know if Cisse ran the shuttle?
I don't know, and I
don't
didn't
know.
spot it. So
I feel like that's something he would actually kill it on.
Yeah.
That's really up his alley, I feel like, in terms of his I mean, what were they calling him? Glitch? Wasn't that the nickname?
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, if your nickname is Glitch, you better be quick. So I think that Cisse's going through actually change of direction DB drills right now, catching the football a little bit. So yeah, we'll see what the feedback is, man. But typically there's going to be a lot of positivity out of these things, and then we really, the rubber meets the road, so to speak, in about a month.
Yeah, after today, as we kind of talked about with Coach Beam, we'll kind of get back in the normal flow of spring practice. Kind of a weird start, spring break last week, pro day today, but tomorrow kind of back to normal. And again, we're not going to hear from Beamer this week. We talked to him an hour ago, but kind of got back into the flow of doing that next week. Heard from coordinators yesterday. I'd planned on getting to some of that sound. We talked to Clayton White earlier, but we'll dive more into what Kendall Browse had to say a little bit tomorrow, because again, the offense can be the most intriguing thing that we're kind of following for most of this offseason. So we'll get into some of that tomorrow. But yeah, I'd say overall pretty successful day out here. And again, hopefully, these guys that got to go out here and put up some times and drills for these NFL scouts, see the benefits of that coming up here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, no doubt. And tomorrow we'll have all the feedback. We'll have all the numbers. They usually send out official numbers after this thing. So we will see where things are then.
And we'll have some practice to talk about.
That's right.
You get a little bit of practice tomorrow morning.
Hopefully you guys get to see as much as you did last time. I was telling Kevin, they all usually see stretching, and you got to see a good amount of stuff. Hopefully no offensive line drills that go viral this time.
I know. Will Jack be out there? We'll see if he can randomly.
I think Jack will be back.
Yeah, Jack will be back tomorrow. I gotta see what he's available to do for radio tomorrow morning now that you guys are going out to practice. But we'll get all that tomorrow, recap pro day, as well as dive into what the coordinators had to say yesterday as well. Appreciate Coach Beamer and everybody for allowing us to be out here. Thank you, Clayton White, for joining us as well. And this has been the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Live at Pro Day halftime show coming up next here on 107.5 The Game.